Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to go over something that I've been learning, which is camera movement. So as an example, if you wanted to track with a subject, there's plenty of things that you can use to get the same type movement. You can use a Steadicam, you can use a gimbal, but what I wanted to go over is the subtle differences that you would get with each movement. So first I'll go over the differences that I feel when I am looking at a Steadicam shot versus a gimbal shot. And so I have this little rough kind of comparison here. I grabbed some footage online from the Crimson Engine YouTube channel. And then I also have the Halloween original Steadicam shot. This is one of the first films to use the Steadicam, I believe. For me, the Steadicam gives you a more organic feel. There's imperfections in the shot that just give it more life. Now, with the second example from the Crimson Engine YouTube channel, I feel a little bit more robotic. It definitely serves the purpose of tracking while people are talking, but it is a little bit more flat. And so a good way that I can explain it is basically similar to how people are searching for vintage lenses with those vintage characteristics. A lot of people say that these things give the lens character and give the image character. And so basically what I'm looking at in the Steadicam shots is that same feeling. Now, will this work for everything? It depends on the type of movement you are using. For instance, there's this movie here that the camera movements are built into the story.
Permission granted!
Thank you.
You get these very robotic gimbal-esque movements because the main character has a robot chip controlling his body. And so for a storytelling technique, it works perfectly, and the movement of the gimbal actually helps tell the story. However, there are a lot of stories that need to be more organic. And so while one is not better than the other, they are just separate tools, and you should be able to choose the tool based on what you need it to accomplish. And where the problem comes in is if you're low budget like me and you have a shot that requires a Steadicam and you don't have the budget for it. And so what really got me starting to think about how to use a gimbal to closely replicate a Steadicam as much as possible is this clip that I saw from the YouTube channel Maddie Hopoya. I'll play that clip for you now.
And in this episode, we have Chris Hare, DP, camera operator, handing it off in between every single bar, or like, how are you getting through?
Had to. I wonder if we.
Are you? Is somebody else controlling the head here?
With the kind of handoff situation like this, you have actually on the front of the bus, the wheels are set up. So there's somebody operating the roll, kind of giving it this like floating feeling, and then there's somebody on pan tilt.
So as you saw, the filmmaker is using a gimbal to achieve the shot that a Steadicam couldn't. And as he said in the video, they have operators that intentionally tilt the camera as almost a Steadicam would when momentum is pulling it a certain direction. And so that got me thinking if it's possible that I could use a similar technique on my much cheaper small end consumer gimbal. The gimbal that I use is the Zhiyun Crane 3S, and just like most gimbals, it has a couple different modes that you can put it in, and one of the modes that is most useful for the Steadicam effect is the POV mode. And so the POV mode is great because it allows the gimbal to have the off-axis Dutch kind of shifts that you would see in the Steadicam shots. You can control that based off of how you rotate the gimbal. All you have to do is, if you're rounding a corner with the gimbal, slowly tilt it a little bit, and you can get that motion embedded into your footage, and it's not hard to level it back out. Just go back the other way and you'll be golden. So this goes a long way into giving your footage a less robotic look and a more natural movement to it. However, depending on the type of shot, this is not going to get you all the way there. There's a lot of Steadicam shots that don't necessarily introduce that kind of Dutch movement, and where you really do see a difference in those kinds of shots is how quickly the camera can pan, move, and stay where you put it. So a lot of the times with gimbals, they're slower to react. So sometimes when you want to pan to a subject on a certain mark, You'll get there, but then the camera will be slow to catch up. And that's not something you have to worry about with a Steadicam because it is all tactile. Now, to solve this issue, my gimbal has a mode called Go mode, and it really tightens up the strength of the motors. And so you can really whip it around and it's gonna be almost 1-for-1 where you point it. And then the third issue is if you have a Steadicam and you want to hit a mark and stay there, you get a almost tripod-like shot at the end of it. However, with a gimbal, you can have the same setup, and when you stop, you always tend to see a little bit of shift in the image. Now, to get around that, the method that I find that helps combat that issue is at the end of the shot, you need to tuck your elbows in. I inhale, and as the shot ends, I don't exhale, and I hold a tight pose with my core flex, and I just hold it there as best as possible. Later on in post, you don't see that movement as much. So that's it for this video. Hopefully with those 3 tips, you can turn your gimbal movements from robotic to organic for your next short film. If you like the tips that I shared or learned anything new, feel free to subscribe. And if you have any tips of your own that you'd like to share, feel free to leave them down in the description. I'm always down to learn about anything filmmaking, whether that's lighting, camera, etc. So until next time, thanks.